Hello, Mr. Gheorghiu.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good. So prepare for the summer.
Let's try. Probably, yes. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully
We'll
it will
see.
be not so hot.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we see a game against Peter Lukacs.
Yeah, it's a very important game in that time because it was decisive. We had a match in Budapest between four grandmasters. First two could qualify for the interzonal. It was like this. There.
Mhm.
And
Who are the
this
four,
one,
four grandmasters?
it was Sachs and Lukacs for Hungary, myself, and I think Schnapik for Poland. It was
Ah,
four grandmasters like
for
this.
from
Yes.
Eastern Europe.
Yeah. So the first two had to qualify. Could qualify. So our game here was decisive because the winner, the guy who won this game, could qualify. Had
Mhm.
the best chance to qualify.
Okay.
So it was a very sharp game, and I had to try to win with black, of course. And it was a little bit surprising because uh, this variation was, the last cry of the theory in that time, for black and for white, the so called Petrosian and Kasparov variation for white, played by many grandmasters, Karpov, Kasparov, Petrosian, of course, and so on, Portlish, myself, and so on, for white, I mean. And black, if you don't play c5, is more quiet, but you don't have a very good chance to
Attack. Or
complicate the things and to have a good chance to try to win, of course. Of course, it's very risky to play like this, you'll see, but that gives a very good chance to try to win. So after c5, if white wants something, has to push, has to play d5. If white plays e3, is more quiet and black has no special problems to equalize the game very quickly, in the opening. So okay, after d5, everything is more or less forced. So now after bishop a6, again, queen c2, it was considered, and it is considered even now the best move, because now, of course, it seems that if black takes immediately the pawn, is very bad. He loses a piece, at least. So, of course, black takes, and now not knight takes d5, queen e4 check, and white wins, but of course, bishop b7, of course, much better.
yes.
So, after bishop b7, e4, of course. After knight c3, black could take in d5 this time, because the knight was protected in d5. And after queen e4 check, queen e7, and black is all right. So e4. And now after e4,
So sorry. So after
knight c3, knight
yes.
takes d5, and
Okay.
after, the knight is protected, queen e4 check, and now simply queen e7, and
Yes.
everything is all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so e4. And now queen e7. Now what to do? White loses a pawn. Gives a pawn for initiative. So bishop d3, knight takes d5, castle. Okay, castle, knight back in c7, the best. Knight c3, and now a little bit provocative, knight c6. Gives white the possibility to play immediately knight d5. It seems very good.
Yeah.
Because it seems that opens the e file.
Yes.
Knight d5. Okay, my opponent played immediately knight d5. He took, and now knight e5. And now it's a small surprise again, because now after rook e1, he loses immediately. Knight takes f3 check and resigns. White
Yes.
resigns.
Yes.
So after knight e5, if he takes first in e5, is nothing special, because black takes back, of course, with the queen, then bishop d6, and even castle queenside is all right for black. It's no special problem, and black is better. Pawn up and better position. So all right, bishop e4. Now after bishop e4, very sharp f5. So now after f5, he has to take a decision what to do now. He has to react very quickly. He took in e5. I took in e5, and now if he took in f5, again black is better, clearly better. Even after bishop d6, probably is all right, and then castle longside, queenside, pardon, and black is attacking. Black has initiative and very good game. You see, the pawn d5 is weak later. So, okay, bishop f3, bishop d6, and now what to do? Threatens mate, of course, g3, now castle, and here bishop d2. And this is probably the first important moment. If black plays here very sharp f4, has a very good chance to win quickly, maybe not by attacking very quickly. I mean, very strong initiative. Even if black gives for a few moves, the exchange is decisive advantage for black. F4 was very strong, in that position. But I played more quiet. What did I play here? After queen f6. All right. After queen f6, bishop c3. Okay. Bishop e5, took in e5, took in e5, rook e1, and queen d6. Well, pawn up. Black has a pawn and very strong position. And okay, queen e2. Now, again, the second moment, it seems a little bit strange, but the best move here was probably king f7. Protects every square, and threatens immediately rook e8. After rook e8, black is clearly better for nothing. I mean, just pawn up and very strong initiative. So, okay, I played a few moves here and there with my rook, and that gives a small chance to my opponent, I mean, I was a little bit nervous because I knew the situation that I had to win. I didn't want to give any chance to my opponent, so the next moves are, not the best ones, let's say, you see. So, okay, rook f6, rook back to f8, king g2, and now g6 again waits a little bit. Now white has to do something, plays h4, and now rook c8. Now black threatens c4. After c4 and b5, like in any Benoni, black comes immediately on the queen side, majority on the queen side. Very strong for black, So white has to do something very quickly, So, okay.
But why, like in any Benoni? Benoni has
Benoni
majority.
has this idea, to push very quickly the c pawn and have a very strong initiative on the queen side. It's the main idea in Benoni for black, you see, in many positions. So, okay, rook f6 now, and h5. After h5, everything again is forced, because now after g5, black has a very strong threat to play himself g4.
Yeah.
If black can play g4, it's finished for white. He loses without fight the central pawn d5, and okay, it's very, very easy afterwards. So, all right, now here, what did he play? He took, I took, and rook e5. Okay, after rook e5, rook f8, and rook e1, and king g7. After king g7, he played himself g4 because black wanted to play himself g4, decisive.
But why you didn't play, let's say,
I could
earlier?
play probably g4 immediately, of course,
Yes.
But I don't know. It's difficult to explain. Well, he has to go back, you see, in e2, for instance.
Yes.
And then you can't take with the bishop with check in d5 because it's possible for white to take in d5. You take and he pins you in c4 and wins.
Yes.
So that prepares, king g7 prepares. Every piece is on black, and you threaten now g4 decisively. See?
Yeah.
So he has to play himself g4, but that opens completely the game for black, Black has very strong game now and wins by force in a few moves. We'll see. It was already time trouble and so on. Now you have to demonstrate how you win with black, you see. By good game for both, I mean. Yeah. So now bishop c6. Now he has to take in g5, king h6, and king rook back. Now with tempo, rook f6, the other rook, So he has to play rook e2 because he can't give the f pawn. And now decisive bishop f3. Now the game is completely over for white. He doesn't have any counterplay. He has to accept this endgame, which is completely lost for white. So has to takes king g2. And now rook f5. He took in f5. I took in f5, and he resigned. No?
Yes, resigned.
He resigned because it's very easy to win. The best possibility to win here is like this: rook e7, for instance, the only counterplay. And now black wins, even if he plays d5, is winning. But rook d5 is the best, rook d5. The threat is to pin with rook d2. you know,
okay.
attacking the b2 pawn, and if
Yeah.
he loses the b2 pawn, is completely over, you know, in a few moves. And then after king g3, for instance, has to go up, you know. Now rook d2, yeah, attacking the pawn. Now b3, for instance, loses immediately. After b3, rook d3 check, and the endgame is completely over, you know. If he pushes, I mean, rook e3, black can trade the rook, and he loses the h pawn, and 2 pawns up in endgame.
Yeah.
Yeah, very easy. This is the main line. I mean, to win such a winning position. You know? Well, it was very interesting up to this position. You know, I mean, how to play with black. What was the idea in the opening? What was the idea in the middle game, and so on. Well, black could play a little bit better. Even in our game, I could play a little bit better, but it was a special situation because I knew that the game was decisive, and therefore we had some small mistakes like this, you know,
Which is normal.
human mistakes. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
You are